From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
Kamala, you're fired!
I say, bring it on.
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham in Washington, D.C. Lots of pressing stories to get to, including North Korea's potentially game-changing kamikaze drones, which now have both Seoul and Washington on edge. But first, here's a look at the latest headlines. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps vows to attack Israel, saying revenge for the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh is certain. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan visits China as Washington and Beijing try to set up a meeting between President Joe Biden and Xi Jinping before President Biden steps down in January. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg accuses the Biden administration of repeatedly pressuring Instagram and Facebook to censor certain content related to COVID-19. Zuckerberg says he will push back if such demands are made again. Canada imposes 100% tariffs on Chinese electric vehicle imports, matching measures taken by the United States earlier this year. Ottawa also bans Chinese investment in its critical mineral sector. An incessant rainfall causes a dam to collapse, killing at least 30 and leaving hundreds missing in eastern Sudan. Government authorities say at least 20 villages have been washed away after the dam burst. We began in Europe, where Russia carried out massive airstrikes across Ukraine for a second consecutive day. Air raids alerts sounded across several Ukrainian regions, including the capital Kyiv, Lviv, Kharkiv, and the Odessa regions. Russia says it launched a few hundred missiles and suicide drones to strike Ukraine's energy infrastructure. At least 6 civilians were killed, with several wounded in the raid as thousands took shelter in underground bunkers. Almost 1 million Ukrainians were left without electricity and water as Russian missiles damaged energy grids and water storage facilities. The Kremlin said the air attacks are in response to the incursion by Ukrainian troops in Russia's Kursk region. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky addressed the nation and spoke about the damage to the energy sector.
There's a lot of damage in the energy sector, but wherever there is a power outage, restoration is already underway. Our repair crews will work around the clock. We will restore electricity. It was one of the heaviest strikes, a combined one. More than 100 missiles of various types and about 100 Shahid drones. And like most previous Russian strikes, this one was just as vile, targeting critical civilian infrastructure. Most of our regions, from the Kharkiv region and Kyiv to Odessa and our western regions.
President Zelensky also urged NATO allies to speed up the delivery of air defense systems and long-range weapons so that Ukraine could both defend and attack when provoked.
Each such strike reminds us again and again of the need for long-range capabilities, the necessity to provide our defense forces with sufficient long-range weapons capable of destroying terrorists precisely where they launch their attacks from.
The Ukrainian president also added that his troops are now occupying more Russian land in Kursk, while declaring that he has also ordered the Air Force to deploy the newly acquired F-16 fighter jets to defend Ukraine's skies.
Today, I began the day with a separate, lengthy conversation with Commander-in-Chief Kursk. We discussed in detail the repulsion of this missile strike, our response to Russia, which we are preparing, the use of F-16s, and the operation in the Kursk region. We continue our actions in designated areas exactly as Ukraine needs.
Meanwhile, President Joe Biden called the recent Russian attacks outrageous and cowardly. President Biden also spoke with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and thanked him for showing support to Ukraine during his historic visit to Kyiv. The commander-in-chief added that the Indian leader could play a pivotal role in mediating peace between Russia and Ukraine, emphasizing New Delhi's influence on Moscow. And now shifting to the Korean Peninsula, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un unveiled new domestically developed kamikaze drones on Monday. Images published by North Korean media show Kim Jong-un overseeing the live firing of these suicide drones. White drones with an X-shaped wing and tail were seen crashing into and destroying mock targets which resembled South Korean main battle tanks. After the live-fire drills, Kim Jong-un said that global trends in military technology and modern combat have shown the importance of drones. He also announced the accelerated development of more kamikaze drones, which would be handed over to infantry and special forces units. Military experts have noted that the North Korean drones look like copies of Russian and Israeli drones. Analyzing images shared by North Korea, military experts say the suicide drones look like replicas of the Russian Lancet and the Israeli Hero 30 drones. Now, U.S. intelligence officials claim that Pyongyang may have acquired the technology directly from Moscow. They added that the blueprint for the Israeli drones could have been leaked to North Korea or sold illegally by Iran, as Tehran has been accused by Israel of trying to hack and steal drone technology. Meanwhile, South Korea has raised the alarm and called North Korea's drone drills a significant security threat.
The intelligence authorities of South Korea and the U.S. are continuously chasing and monitoring the movement of weapon development, including unmanned aerial vehicles, as well as the various military activities of North Korea.
Seoul added that it suspects Moscow is behind Pyongyang's drone program and could have supplied crucial technology about developing kamikaze drones.
We understand that some drones were given in an exchange between North Korea and Russia in the past. We need to analyze various measures to see if those have improved performance.
Joining South Korea is the United States, which has also voiced its concerns over North Korea's drone drills. Washington also believes that Moscow may have given Pyongyang vital drone technology in exchange for ammunition and missiles to fight its war in Ukraine. North Korea, however, says that it developed the kamikaze drones without external assistance, as Kim Jong-un announced that thousands of drones would be added to its arsenal within a year. And here in the United States, the race for the White House takes another strange twist. Former President Donald Trump has now threatened to back out of the debate with Vice President Kamala Harris, scheduled for September 10th. The Republican has accused the Democrat of not abiding by the agreed-upon rules, while also saying the debate host, which is ABC News, is biased towards Kamala Harris. Now, speaking at a community event in Falls Church, Virginia, Donald Trump said the vice president was trying to change the agreed-upon debate rules because she's afraid of facing him on stage. These accusations come after the Harris campaign said it wanted to do away with the rule where the microphones would remain muted for the candidate that was not speaking. However, Donald Trump said that he has a problem with debating Kamala Harris on ABC News and wants to have the debate on another network.
But when I looked at the hostility of that, I said, why am I doing it? Let's do it with another network. I want to do it. You know, I won because of debates. Ask Biden. I won because of debates. I want to do debates. But she, the head of ABC, is her comrade's best friend. You know that, right? What kind of a deal is that? I want to have a fair debate. And you know, they can ask me tough questions. I don't mind. I think I've heard them all from you. I hear them every day. But I think it's very unfair. The single worst network for unfairness, I think, worse than CNN, worse than NBC, which is really hard to believe. And CBS is probably the best of the group. Fox is the best.
Now, Harris campaign spokesperson Brian Fallon said they would prefer to have hot mics where the microphones are kept unmuted throughout the event. Hot mics can help or hurt a presidential candidate as it catches offhanded comments that are made when the other person is talking. Speaking on the demand for having hot mics, Donald Trump said that he would actually prefer to have his mic unmuted at all times. However, the Republican accused Kamala Harris of breaking the initial agreement that was made regarding the September 10 debate, which included keeping the microphones muted, a condition that was proposed by President Joe Biden for the first presidential debate against Donald Trump on June 27th.
We agreed to the same rules. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have it probably on, but the agreement was that it would be the same as it was last time. In that case, it was muted. I didn't like it the last time, but it worked out fine. I mean, ask Biden how it worked out. It was fine. And I think it should be the same. We agreed to the same rules. Same rules and same specifications. And I think that's probably what it should be. But they're trying to change it. The truth is they're trying to get out of it because she doesn't want to debate. She's not a good debater. She's not a smart person. She doesn't want to debate.
The ex-president went on to say that he's looking forward to debating the vice president as long as the rules that were already agreed upon were followed. The Republican has made it clear that he does not want to back out of the debate because of the introduction of hot mics. Instead, it's about hosting the debate on ABC News, which he calls biased. Donald Trump's U-turn comes as he had already agreed to debate on ABC News when the scheduling was first done months ago. But clearly, with anything with Donald Trump, the soap opera continues. And now in Brazil, where over 600 migrants, mostly from India, Nepal, and Vietnam, are currently facing alarming humanitarian conditions. They remain trapped at Sao Paulo's international airport and are being deprived of basic necessities like food, water, and even blankets to keep warm. The migrants are now anxiously awaiting to leave the airport for the United States as Brazil tightens its immigration rules. Here's our report with more.
At Sao Paulo's Guarulhos International Airport, a tense and tragic story is unfolding. Over 660 migrants from India, Nepal, Vietnam and other nations have found themselves trapped in a nightmare. They've turned the airport's cold, sterile floors into makeshift beds, with their dreams of a better future put on hold indefinitely. The scene is grim. Families are huddled together in a restricted area with no access to basic necessities like showers, warm clothes, or even enough food and water. Children caught in the crossfire of migration politics also shiver through the Brazilian winter without blankets to keep them warm. The air is thick with uncertainty and desperation as these migrants await a decision that could change their lives forever. The situation turned tragic nearly 2 weeks ago when a 39-year-old man from Ghana suddenly died. While the cause of his death remains unknown, it also remains unclear whether he passed away at the airport or en route to the hospital. So why are these migrants facing such perilous conditions? Brazil, a country once celebrated for its open arms towards refugees, is now facing an overwhelming surge of migrants. Brazil received over 9,000 refugee requests, that was double compared to the total in the previous year. In a statement, Brazil's Justice Ministry said that many of these travelers, particularly from Asia, arrive under the guise of seeking asylum but use Brazil as a gateway to the US or Canada. Hence, to tackle this influx, the Brazilian government has now decided to implement stricter immigration rules. The new policies force migrants without visas to either continue their journey to another country or return to their homeland, effectively shutting down the possibility of finding refuge in Brazil. But considering the harsh situation at the Sao Paulo airport, the Brazilian Public Defender's Office has now sounded an alarm, warning that the basic human rights of these migrants are being grossly violated. Their health is deteriorating rapidly, and the conditions they're enduring are nothing short of inhuman. The office has called on authorities to immediately improve the living conditions for the migrants, urging Brazil to honor its commitments under the 1951 UN Refugee Convention. This convention obliges nations to provide sanctuary to those fleeing persecution, regardless of their legal status. Yet, as the deadline for these new rules looms, a cloud of uncertainty hangs over the airport. Will these migrants, who are already caught in bureaucratic purgatory, be forced to leave, or will Brazil uphold its reputation as a safe haven? The clock is ticking, and the fate of hundreds hangs in the balance.
And finally, from Canada, with foreign nationals driving a population boom, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has announced a sharp cut in the intake of low-wage temporary foreign workers. The move will impact thousands of immigrants, mostly from India and South Asia. The immigration program has long been used to exploit migrants, but Trudeau's supporters say it was necessary to address labor shortages in Canada. Now, with rising unemployment, a looming housing crisis, and elections in a year, the stakes couldn't be higher. Our final report has more.
There's a major policy shift in Canada. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has announced plans to cut down the number of low-wage temporary foreign workers and permanent residents coming into the country, putting Canada at a crossroads. The country for years has been a beacon for immigrants. But now, faced with a 97% surge in population, the Trudeau government is rethinking its strategy. Taking to social media platform X, Trudeau said it's time to overhaul the temporary foreign worker program and invest in Canadian nationals. This program, which allows businesses to hire foreign nationals for short-term jobs, has been under fire for allowing exploitation and depressing wages. Recent reports, including a scathing assessment from the United Nations, have labelled it a quote-unquote breeding ground for contemporary forms of slavery. But the criticism doesn't stop here. Labour advocates have long argued that the program is being misused. Employers are using it to bypass hiring skilled Canadian workers, instead opting for cheaper temporary labour. And the numbers back it up. In 2023 alone, nearly 184,000 temporary foreign worker permits were granted. And now, with the unemployment rate at 6.4% and over 1.4 million Canadians out of work, Trudeau's government says enough is enough. Starting September 26, the rules will change. Work permits will be denied in regions where the unemployment rate is 6% or higher. Moreover, the share of low-wage temporary foreign workers that an employer can hire will be cut in half, from 20% of their workforce to just 10%. The impact on the Indian community in Canada will also be significant. India is a major contributor to Canada's temporary foreign worker population, with nearly 26,500 workers in 2023 alone. The country also leads in sending international students to Canada. But recent data shows a sharp decline in study permit approvals, hinting at a broader slowdown in new arrivals. Earlier this year, Trudeau's government acknowledged the crisis by imposing limits on international student visas. And now, with this latest move, the Canadian government aims to bring down the temporary resident population from 6.2% of the total to just 5%. So the government's goal is quite clear: reduce the strain on public services and give Canadian workers a fair shot. But as these policies take effect, the question remains: will this shift help solve Canada's problems, or is it just the beginning of a much larger debate about the country's future?
That's our show for today. We certainly thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to see you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks again for watching. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
Kamala, you're fired!
I say, bring it on.
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. from the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill. We know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on First Post America.